At first glance, the Castle Morne questline seems very straightforward. There was a servant rebellion, they killed everyone in the castle, and the fallen commander Edgar went mad over the grief caused by losing his daughter Irina. But there has been one question lingering on my mind ever since I played this quest for the first time 2 years ago and made a video about it. And that question is, did Edgar become a cannibal? And I know this sounds really clickbaity, but hear me out, because as I looked into this to prove whether or not he was a cannibal, I started to see little clues and bits of evidence that make me think this Castle Morne quest is actually much deeper than it appears to be on the surface, and it has a much more important part to play in the story and connected to the ending in a way that I never noticed before. So let me go ahead and set the stage. Castle Morne was one of Godric's territories, but many years ago it originally belonged to an unknown hero from a country now vanished, who lost the castle in a siege led by Lord Godfrey. Castle Morne was eventually inherited by Godric the Grafted, and he appointed Edgar, one of his military commanders, as its overseer. Edgar employed the labor of misbegotten servants, a race of beings that had long been abused. But one day, they'd had enough.
The menials have all rebelled.
Filled with hatred for every one of us.
Edgar made arrangements for his daughter Irina to escape the castle, escorted by soldiers meant to watch over her until he quashed the rebellion.
My sole wish is that he escape, even if his honor should be the price.
But I can't leave yet. Even if the castle should fall, as commander I must remain, to ensure the treasured sword of Morne does not fall into the wrong hands.
After defeating the Leonine Misbegotten that was in possession of the treasured sword and returning it to Edgar, he's relieved that his commission is now complete.
Once I've rescued Irina, I will spend my remaining days with her.
But Edgar arrived too late.
I chose duty over my daughter's safety. And that is how fate has answered.
I'll find them. The foul wretches responsible for this. I'll hunt them down and exterminate every last one of them.
Time goes by, and one day on the shores of Liarnia Lake, we see a trail of murdered misbegotten, their bodies forming a path up to a decrepit shack in the brush. Edgar suddenly appears as an invader and a chilling new title, the Revenger. He finally gets to illustrate his fighting prowess that we didn't get the chance to witness back at Castle Morne. Even though he puts up a good fight, Edgar is eventually no match, and after his defeat, you find out that he has in his possession some very unusual items, some very sus items. Edgar was carrying not one, not two, but 5 raw meat dumplings. And in the Revenger's shack, where he ended up living out the remainder of his life supposedly as it's named after him, you find yet another 5 dumplings conveniently nestled on the corpses of 5 dead bodies. This grand total of 10 raw meat dumplings is very obviously, at least to me, supposed to invoke this visceral reaction of, what the heck is going on here? Let's read the ingredients of these raw meat dumplings, shall we? A pungent raw meatball, made succulent by virtue of being on the verge of turning, not recommended for those who prefer to know the origin of their meats. In so many words, these raw meat dumplings are human flesh. Maybe it's because I love true crime and I love coming to creepy conclusions, but the first thing I jumped to after finishing this quest and seeing this was, oh my gosh, Edgar became a cannibal, because why else would he have all of this human meat on his person? As I looked more into this, I think I came to a better conclusion rather than Edgar as a cannibal. There's a spirit near the Revenger's shack on the Lake of Liarnia that provides another hint about what happened to Edgar. Ah, the poor fellow, gone perfectly mad. Love, revenge, the frenzied flame melts it all away. That last line about the frenzied flame leads us to our next clue that you get off of Edgar's body, and that is the Shabriri Grape that he's holding. And what are Shabriri Grapes?
No, that's not possible.
So what was Edgar doing with a Shabriri Grape, and does this now possibly change the motivation of this murder spree? Hayata is the mysterious individual that we meet sometime after Irina's death, and very suspiciously, she resembles Irina in every way.
Hello? Is somebody there? Hello? Is someone there?
And what does Hayata want from us so that she can see the light and guide us towards the Frenzied Flame ending?
Would you donate any Shabriri grapes in your possession to me?
There's one more question we have to answer that is the final complete part of this puzzle. And that is, what was the reason behind the Misbegotten rebellion? The Misbegotten overall are a very tragic race of beings. They are very, very heavily abused and mistreated. So I'm not sure if Edgar and Irina were any different in this regard. They could have just been just as cruel to them. There's no indication that they were treated well here. So I would go with the assumption that, yeah, Edgar and Irina were not kind to them. And there is some evidence that might point to the fact that, yeah, they were being mistreated. There are a couple of jail cells that contain trembling and terrified misbegotten servants, and along the outer rampart are several more cowering misbegotten that don't engage with you in any way. This is the only place that I'm aware of that the misbegotten have this specific cowering animation. It appears to be unique to Castle Morne. So I'm not sure if they are cowering and trembling and afraid to signify that they're afraid of Edgar, afraid of the castle staff, or are they afraid of the rebellion? Are these the outliers that wanted to have nothing to do with it? Edgar himself seems to be a little bit confused about the reason behind the rebellion. He even says,
"They gave me good service, or so I thought."
But then goes on to disparage them.
Foul creatures, as it said. And true enough, they're foul inside and out.
It's not entirely uncalled for, given that they killed everyone and he's had to witness the slaughter of everyone he knows and loves. It just seems to me like he's not really sure why they rebelled. So this makes me wonder if there was something else behind their actions that night. And in fact, Irina has a piece of information that is very telling.
I can't be sure what it is. My eyesight's been weak since birth, you see. But I swear I heard frightful howling from all over.
Irina seems to be surprised by this howling sound. The language of, "I swear I heard frightful howling," as if that was something not typical of the Misbegotten. It sort of stood out to her as being unusual. That's how I interpreted that line. And if you listen to the Misbegotten, it doesn't really seem like they howl. They cheer, they jeer, they grunt, but they don't really seem to howl. But there is one individual who does howl, and that was Shabriri. Or at least he has an incantation named Shabriri's Howl. It actually sounds more like a scream. A maddening shriek that causes madness buildup in foes nearby. It is said that the sickness of the flame of frenzy began with Shabriri, the most reviled man in all history. Could Irina's line about hearing a frightful howling actually be a clue about Shabriri? And if so, does this mean that Shabriri orchestrated this entire rebellion at Castle Morne and put all of these events into motion? Going back to the spirit on the lake, it mentions Edgar going perfectly mad, which is a side effect from Shabriri's howl. That, coupled with the line about the Frenzied Flame, the fact that Edgar drops a Shabriri Grape, and the fact that he uses a Frenzied Flame seal during his invader fight, is just throwing the answer at us. Edgar wasn't driven mad with grief, he was actually frenzied. I'm still not sure why there are so many Rami dumplings around. It's still giving me cannibal vibes, which is not entirely out of character for a crazy person, but maybe someone out there has a more logical explanation. This very likely does mean that Shabriri did in fact have a hand in this. The more that I thought about this theory, the more that I put the pieces together, I have convinced myself. I seriously think that this is actually the conclusion we're supposed to come to. When you first play Castle Morne, you wouldn't know all of this, but as you go on in the game and you start to kind of put the pieces together, you think, oh my gosh, this is like some Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy level plotting. This is like James Bond villain plotting. Shabriri really did plan all of this so that the events could happen the way that he needed them to in order for him to get the ideal outcome. Okay, so yeah, I guess that's all. Thanks so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, if you were amused or entertained, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Also, thank you to my channel members so much for supporting me every month. I really appreciate you guys. So yeah, thank you. And if you'd like to sign up to be a channel member, you can do so on my homepage. Alright, I guess that's all for me. Thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see you next time. Bye!